when you look at January as the starting point for your Precidian structure, is there anything in the plumbing that still needs to be worked out before the launch can take effect?
Well, there are a few, Nate Scarlett, that we're working out right now with both the CBOE, New York Stock Exchange, as well as with indicative value providers behind the scenes. But I think that we should be easily able to hit the January launch or definitely within the first quarter.
Okay, got it. Now, you've already got some big asset managers lined up as licensees of the Precidian structure, but others like Fidelity and T. Rowe Price, they've set up their own structure as well. What are the key differences between the structures? In other words, how confused are investors going to be?
Well, one of the things that the advantages that we have that I think some of the other parties don't have is that we've been able to license some of the larger entities that you're talking about. So the JP Morgans, the Goldman Sachs, you go down that list, the American Century, Gabelli, and others. We have about 14 active managers that have licensed from us that have about $15 trillion of management, money under management. So I think the advantage is that we will all be selling the same structure, to your point.
Okay, so I mean, the principle, the underlying principle is the same thing here. One big pushback is that these non-transparent active structures are a solution in search of a problem, or at least a solution for the asset management industry rather than investors themselves. Ben Johnson of Morningstar had a chart that shows the active mutual fund flows for the Precidian licensees, and it's been pretty much down, 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 especially the last 5 or 6 years. Why do you think these guys will have success now with this new structure when they can't get it done with, they're already losing so much money as it is?
Well, I think the reason that they're losing that money is because they haven't had the right vehicle to be able to compete against the passive ETF space, for the last 25 years. So we've seen the flows, to your point, move over to passive vehicles. But for the first time now, you're going to have active management community have the ability to avail themselves of a structure that will give them the same types of tax efficiencies, trading efficiencies that today's ETFs enjoy. So I think now we finally have a level playing field.
One argument that non-transparent active proponents make over the current transparent active that we do have available is that the really good managers haven't really made the shift into the ETF landscape, and this would allow them to, would pave the way for them to do so. My question, though, is who are the really good fund managers these days? Because it feels like the era of star fund managers is over. We no longer have Peter Lynch and Jeff Vinnick picking stocks anymore. Sure, there's Warren Buffett, there's Howard Ward, and there's Howard Marks, and there's Ray Dalio, but they're not really accessible to ordinary investors.
Well, to your point, there are a lot of people out there today that are not accessible. So if you look at potentially JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs, you might not have the ability to access those parties, or even hedge funds managers who you can't access because you don't meet the minimum requirements. These are the kind of vehicles that allow those portfolio managers to come to market and to compete against the standard index-based products. And specifically, you're going to look at performance that they're going to pick up in this model that they're not picking up. And today, we're getting closer to tax season right now. ETFs have a major advantage over the mutual fund complexes out there because of the ability to deliver in-kind securities out and reduce the cash drag. Now we're going to have the active manager be able to avail himself of that same type of structure.
Are you getting interest from the hedge fund managers?
We are talking to several.
And how close are they to doing something?
Well, I don't know if they're not going to be the first mover, but I wouldn't be surprised to see people be second movers or third movers.
Now, regarding the name, non-transparent active is a bit of a mouthful. It feels kind of clunky. There are a lot of people in your ETF world who are looking to perhaps change the name or come up with different alternatives. Eric conducted a very scientific poll on Twitter, of course, and non-transparent active or active non-transparent, which our Rachel Evans has proposed, was the most popular choice by far, 44%. A majority, though, went in the other direction. They were looking for alternatives. What's your thought on this? Is it wise to find one way of categorizing this product?
Right. I feel it is unfair to label them as non-transparent. We don't label a mutual fund as non-transparent. And actually, they have much more transparency in these vehicles because we are fully, in our case, price transparent. Our model allows for actual pricing of the underlying component securities every second of the day. To that point, I like to call them semi-transparent, or we just refer to our structure as active shares.